Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
It's all happening, folks. Breaking news, blowing up our show. Quarterbacks on the move and quarterbacks getting paid. Aaron Rodgers has money flowing out of his pockets. And Teddy Bridgewater is no longer a New York Jet. It's all breaking news, and I have it all for you here in the next 3 hours on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News.
3.5 hours today, Will. Come on.
No, 3.5 hours. Going an extra 30 minutes into 6:30 today on the show, so you get bonus edition like Aaron Rodgers gets bonus cash. It's just the way it works around here. As I said, Aaron Rodgers, according to Adam Schefter, has agreed to a new deal with the Green Bay Packers that makes him the highest paid quarterback in the league, the highest paid NFL player in history. It has the potential to be a $180 million deal over the next 4 years. It's $67 million guaranteed just in the next 4 months. $80 million before St. Patrick's Day and $103 million in total guarantees. Every way you slice it, every way you dice it, it's the tops. It's biggest, it's boldest, it's the most. Most in guarantees, most on an annualized basis, most total contract value. At the same time, Adam Schefter has been busy on his phone because Teddy Bridgewater has been traded from the New York Jets to the New Orleans Saints. Now, we've all been dying to see the update. What's the latest? What did the Saints pay for Teddy Bridgewater? As soon as we get that news, we're going to share it with you. In fact, before we do, let's take bets really quickly. Let's go around the horn. Cerruti's running the show. Mike A's riding shotgun, and Bubba's on the board. What did the New Orleans Saints pay for Teddy Bridgewater? Let's lock in our bets. I go first. I think it's a 5th-round draft pick. Go ahead, Mike A., the Jets fan on the staff today.
A third and something else.
A third and something else.
A third and something else. That's my guess.
Cerruti.
I believe there are reports that it's picks plural. I'll say a 4th and a 7th.
We already know it's picks plural.
I believe.
Did it just come out, Mike? Did it just come out?
Ian Rappaport is reporting it is a third.
Well, I'll be.
I'm going to guess third.
Good job, Bubba.
Good job, Bubba.
Good job. A 3rd-round draft pick for Teddy Bridgewater. That is more than I anticipated the market to be because I didn't anticipate a market to exist at all. That doesn't mean I didn't think Teddy Bridgewater was valuable. I just didn't think anybody was seeking a starting quarterback this year, and the price you would pay for a backup quarterback who'll be a free agent a year from now had to have been lower than a 3rd-round pick. I'll give you my thoughts on what this means for the New Orleans Saints, what it means for Teddy Bridgewater. But first, let's return to Aaron Rodgers and the deal he just signed with the Green Bay Packers. Here is ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter.
Well, we have a 4-year, $133.5 million extension. We've got $103 million in guaranteed money. We've got a record amount of cash flow, which we haven't really seen. I think that's an important feature in deals as teams and players try to construct the outlines for these deals over time. What you're looking at in this particular deal, basically is $67 million will be paid to Rodgers by the end of this year. Over $80 million will be paid to him by St. Patrick's Day. And like I said, $103 million guaranteed. It resets the quarterback market. It tacks on 4 more years to the 2 years he had left. So Rodgers is under contract to the Packers now for the next 6 years. He's 34. That means he'll be in Green Bay with this contract until age 40.
Let's just take a look at the numbers. Aaron Rodgers' total value is somewhere between, according to Adam Schefter, $176 million and $180 million. The next closest would be Matt Ryan with the Atlanta Falcons, whose total contract value is $150 million. But, as is always in the NFL, the important thing is how much is guaranteed. Aaron Rodgers has $103 million guaranteed. The next closest is, again, Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons with $94.5 million guaranteed. How about on an annualized basis? Aaron Rodgers will make $33.5 million a year. However, there are incentives in his deal that can add another $4 million annually to the deal. For example, if the Packers make the playoffs, or if Rodgers finishes in the top 3 in quarterback rating, you can add another $4 million to that. So anywhere between $33.5 million a year and $37 million a year is going to Aaron Rodgers on an annualized basis. The next closest is, again, Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons, whose average per year is $30 million. Aaron Rodgers has blown everything, every salary cap number, every quarterback contract out of the water. And here is the most amazing part. After all those numbers, that's not even the most eye-opening part. Aaron Rodgers and his agent managed, because according to Schefter, it was important to them, to front load as much cash into the first, not just year, not just 9 months, but into the first 4 months of the deal. He will get $67 million before the end of the calendar year. That is September, October, November, and December. 4 months, $67 million. And if that isn't enough to make your panties drop, how about this? Add another $13 million in the first quarter of 2019. By St. Patty's Day, Schefter tweets, it's $80 million to Aaron Rodgers. Now that is a payday. Are you swimming in numbers? Is your head swimming? Because I got one more for you. How about this? Over the next 200 days, Aaron Rodgers will make $400,000 a day. How's your job going? How's mine going? Aaron Rodgers is going better. Coming up in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show, I'm going to tell you, though, another number. A number that should scare Green Bay Packers fans. After all this, after this wonderful payday for Aaron Rodgers, there is a price to pay. And I have the number that Green Bay Packers fans might not be so comfortable paying the price on. But for now, back to Teddy Bridgewater. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Getting your quote at Progressive.com today. Teddy Bridgewater goes from the New York Jets to the New Orleans Saints. Do we have a confirmation on what that price was in trade? All right, still just rumors that it's a third-round pick and change. We'll confirm that as we go here. This tells me two things. Sean Payton and New Orleans Saints talked a lot about Taysom Hill, the quarterback out of BYU, that he wasn't just a worthy backup to Drew Brees, but that he might just be the quarterback of the future. I heard them talk up Taysom Hill on a day-to-day basis, it seemed like. It doesn't seem like Taysom Hill is at least a comfortable backup to Drew Brees, and possibly not the quarterback of the future for the New Orleans Saints. Not if you're going in on Teddy Bridgewater, who's less than a year removed from free agency. And that tells me a second thing. It tells me the New Orleans Saints are all in on 2018. If you're trading for Teddy Bridgewater as your backup to Drew Brees, you believe you are a Super Bowl team. That you have the running game in Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. You have the receiving weapons with guys like Mychal Thomas. You have the defense that we saw last year arrive with the arrival of Marshawn Lattimore. And you have yourself a Super Bowl contending team. You just had to bolster it up in case Drew Brees went down. Teddy Bridgewater is New Orleans Saint. We'll get you the price as soon as we can. All right, coming up, more of my thoughts on Aaron Rodgers and Teddy Bridgewater. You can join the conversation, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. And the one number that should make Green Bay Packers fans nervous. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
The Green Bay Packers could have handed Aaron Rodgers a blank check.
Major news from the NFL. Aaron Rodgers believed to be a 4-year, $134 million extension.
This guy is as competitive as any quarterback I've ever been around.
The money's nice. Of course it's nice, but the juice is the respect.
He has earned everything that has ever come his way.
He's worth $100 million. It's not a question that he's worth that money.
The one number that should make Green Bay Packers fans more than a little nervous here about Aaron Rodgers' new contract. That coming up in just a second here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and you can watch me talk on ESPN News. You can also join the conversation, 888-729-3776. Louis Riddick, ESPN's NFL front office insider, says the Packers, with Aaron Rodgers locked in, they have everything you need to contend.
If you look at the 5 top positions on a 53-man roster, you have to have a quarterback, you have to have a pass rusher, you have to have a corner, you have to have a wide receiver, okay? And you have to have an offensive tackle. They pretty much got the market covered, but they need a premier pass rusher for the future.
That's right.
And they need these young guys, Josh Jackson and Jair Alexander, to develop and become the guys who they've looked like in the preseason. If you have that, if you look forward, if the corners can come through and they can find a pass rusher, look, Muhammad Wilkerson, a lot is on him this year. He needs to come back strong from that last year with the Jets. But they need a perimeter guy to pair with Muhammad Wilkerson. And if they can get that for the next, let's say, 3-4 years, oh, yeah, they're there.
There's 2 ways to look at this Aaron Rodgers contract. There's the perspective of Aaron Rodgers, and there's the perspective of the Green Bay Packers. Now, first, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I laid it out for you last week. The bottom line is if he prioritizes winning over getting paid, getting a below-market contract, providing the Green Bay Packers with a discount is statistically, historically, the best way to go about winning. Over the last 10 years, I went back and looked at all of the Super Bowl champions, and 80% of them, 8 out of 10 Super Bowl champion quarterbacks were, yes, great most of the time, but almost always underpaid. Because that discount contract allowed their team to invest in other areas of the squad. Whatever you weren't spending on quarterback, you could spend on that pass rusher that Louis Riddick just mentioned the Green Bay Packers need, or bolster up your offensive line. The best examples of this are, of course, the Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson, who at the time they won was the 61st highest paid quarterback in the league. But it's not just Russell Wilson. It's obviously Tom Brady on multiple occasions. It's Peyton Manning. It's quarterback after quarterback who was getting paid as a average below market player, below 15th most of the time in annualized value compared to his contemporaries. The only 2 outliers were Aaron Rodgers the first time around and Eli Manning, who were both paid as top quarterbacks when they won. And that, I guess, in the end, is what the Packers had to do. I mean, you got to pay him. It's Aaron Rodgers. So if you look at it from the Packers' perspective, what are you going to do? You're going to do whatever it takes to keep him. Why? Well, here's A.J. Hawk, former Green Bay linebacker, laying it all out.
I mean, he is everything. That's the thing. When he is in the lineup and he's healthy, it's really difficult to count the Packers out. You when you go over and you say, okay, well, who from the NFC has a chance to win the Super Bowl this year? Well, if the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't really matter who else is there. They are going to be in the conversation. Now, obviously, only being able to get to the Super Bowl one time and win it in his time, I feel like, I mean, I know myself when I was there as a defense, we definitely let our offense down at times. We knew how special of a player he was, and we had a ton of talent all over the place. But I guess it just shows you how tough it is to be that consistent and get there year after year.
It's true. If Aaron Rodgers is on the field, you have a chance to beat whoever you're playing, no matter how good they are. Aaron Rodgers is the surest, perhaps, the single most individual surest way to compete for a Super Bowl. Because he's a one-man team. But what I'm telling you, or he's the closest to a one-man team in the NFL, but what I'm telling you is he's going to have to be a one-man team because he didn't take the option that I presented. The easiest way to win, the surest path to winning, is a discount contract. Now, for the number that should scare Green Bay Packers fans. Over the last 25 years, the average amount spent as a percentage of salary cap by Super Bowl winning teams has been 6.9% of their cap. Your Super Bowl champions, on average, have spent about 7% of their cap on the quarterback position. The highest over that same time frame, 25 years, the absolute most that any team had spent was the San Francisco 49ers in 1994. They spent 13% of their cap on Steve Young that year, and that was the highest over the last quarter of a century. In the coming years, on an annualized basis, the Green Bay Packers are going to spend north of 20% of their salary cap on Aaron Rodgers. 20%. 7%'s the average, 13%'s the high water mark, and Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are about to devote 20%. Not just to the quarterback position, but to one player. Now, if there's somebody to break the mold, if you want to break the rules, if you want to buck statistical trends, guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers aren't bad ones to bank on. But you better still acknowledge you're breaking the rules. You are breaking the historical trends. Tim in Ohio, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, Will.
What's up, Tim?
How you doing today?
Go get him, man. What do you got?
Well, I'm a diehard Green Bay Packers fan, have been for close to 30 years. I somewhat agree with this. That's a little bit of money. But in the same turn of things, what we could have done, instead of paying him buku-doodles of money, taking that first-round pick we have next year and the one we got from New Orleans for next year's first round, sent him out to Oakland, pulled Khalil Mack over, paid him for 2 or 3 years, give him his $20 million, maybe $18.5, waited till next year to pay Aaron. He had 2 years left on his contract. I understand, yeah, he's a good quarterback. I love him. He's a great guy, all that good stuff, yeah. But we need to shore up our defense. Our defense has been our weakest part of that team since 2010 when we won the Super Bowl, had 6 starters on defense on IR.
Right. Well, Tim, here's the thing. I appreciate the call. I would say 2 things. It's quite obvious, based upon how front-loaded this contract is, $67 million in the next 4 months and $80 million in the next 6 months, that Aaron Rodgers wanted to get paid, and he wanted to get paid now. And second, you're going to have a hard time in the future shoring up that defense. You're going to have a hard time adding talent outside of the draft. You're going to have a hard time trading and paying guys. You're going to have a hard time attracting free agents because your cap just got ate up by one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the game. Job well done by Aaron Rodgers getting paid. Job well done is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. With quality parts and know-how, Napa Auto Parts can help you keep your ride running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. All right, coming up, a guy who played with Aaron Rodgers, Jeff Saturday. He'll tell me if he likes this deal from Green Bay's perspective next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Ow. Yep, you guessed it. I'm a speed bump, so I've got one job. I slow you down. So imagine how I feel about Geico, who does way more. Like, not only could they save you money on car insurance, but they've been around for over 75 years, giving people fast and friendly claim service. Ow. Plus, they got a nifty mobile app that gives you 24/7 access. Ow. Just doing my job, buddy.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Aaron Rodgers gets paid, and Teddy Bridgewater is a New Orleans Saint. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. ESPN NFL analyst and Super Bowl champion Jeff Saturday is jumping in the studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. You're back on the job. It's been a while. Hadn't seen you. What you been doing?
Been hanging a little bit, man. Enjoying a little summertime, trying to coach some high school football, man. Doing my thing.
Little water skiing. You're a lake guy, right?
Yeah, big water skier. Big. Yeah. Got a lot of fast boats that pull me right up out of the water.
Yeah. You got into that wake surfing yet?
I actually have done it.
Really?
I love it. My boat doesn't do it. I actually have done it, and I was actually good. I surprised myself with my athleticism. Little self promo for Saturday on the surfing behind that boat, baby.
I want to see that. You got that up on your Instagram or something?
It's pretty. I don't. I'm non-social media other than the Twitter that I have for ESPN.
I want to wake surf. Take me wake surfing. I've never done it. All right, let's talk about getting paid. I just laid out here, and you and I were talking during the break. This is so true, and I've got to be careful. But these contracts in the NFL with guarantees and amortization and salary cap going up, it's sometimes impossible to parse until you get some cap guru that spent a week studying the contract, right, exactly what your annual cap hit will be. But even if it is up in the 20% range that I just laid out, cap's $177 million, Aaron Rodgers is $33 million a year. We know those two things.
Sure.
If it's in that 20% range, and that just blows out of the water historical perspectives on this, at least for teams that win the Super Bowl, does that bother you at all?
Not even a little bit. I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, this is, for where he is in his career, this is the best player in football. And what he provides for your team, people will compare, right? Well, Tom Brady takes team-friendly deals and does all these kind of things, which is all true. And Tom Brady, you're talking about one of the greatest to ever play the game. Aaron Rodgers is still working to get in that same conversation, but he'll be there. With the trajectory of his career, he'll be there as well. But what Aaron Rodgers does for the Green Bay Packers and what he would do for any team is he allows off-schedule plays to still become game-defining moments. And there are very few guys, if any, in our game that can compare with what he can do. So when I say that, go back and watch his highlights and watch how many plays, pressure's coming up the middle or he's getting grabbed and he breaks contain, whether he be rolling to his left or to his right, and somehow finds ways to throw a Hail Mary or throw a dart on the sideline, a guy to toe tap to get in. Whatever he does, those are game-defining moments. And you can limit most games in the NFL to 5 plays. You win or lose on 5 plays. Usually when you break the film down, those 5 plays become, man, if we'd have done this, we would have had a chance to win or we would have won the game. And it seems that every time he gets those chances, he maximizes the benefit for the Green Bay Packers. That's why he redefines that position. That's why you pay him that much money, because what he provides for you is you don't have to go spend money in other places because it can be figures in the other areas because he's not an on-time quarterback. It's not like he's sitting in the pocket, you're going to give him the ball, and in 2.4 seconds the ball's got to be out of his hand on a slant route. That's not his game. That's not the way the Packers structure their offense. Their philosophy is different. It's about extending plays. That's what he does better than anybody else.
I love that, man. Games turn on 5 plays.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers gives you at least, I would guess, 3 of those plays in a game. Talking to ESPN NFL analyst and Super Bowl champion Jeff Saturday here on the Will Cain Show. All right, but let me push back a little bit because the price to pay sometimes isn't the $33 million. It is where you're not going to be able to spend because you've given so much to Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you're going to tell me games turn on 5 plays, and Aaron Rodgers can give you some 3 of those. And I get it. When I hear guys like you or A.J. Hawk or Louis Riddick or anybody, the thing that I gather is that Aaron Rodgers transcends.
Right.
He transcends the play, which you just told me.
Exactly.
He transcends the competition.
Absolutely.
He transcends his play, his teammates.
Exactly.
Until he transcends the game, right?
Yes.
But still, he doesn't cover all 5 of those plays. He cannot, in the sport of football, be an absolute one-man show. And I have to think the Packers have to ask themselves, Where are we going to get those other two plays?
Yeah.
Because we can't pay a defensive end now, and we can't pay a top cornerback now, or whatever it may be. It's going to sacrifice somewhere.
Well, here's what they have done well. When Ted Thompson, obviously him retiring, so he's gone now. But what he did is he built the Packers through the draft. Very little money ever came through free agency. So they build their own. It's a homegrown type mentality in Green Bay. So as you're looking at their roster as right now, Jimmy Graham's going to be their number 2. Adams is going to be their number 1. Cobby's going to be out there, their number 3. He's still going to be a slot guy. Everybody's talking about trading. They got a good left tackle they've already paid. Their line is in good shape. Their defensive, they got Mo Wilkerson, who's going to be he's on a 1-year deal. So as you're looking at what they do in the draft on the secondary, with Coach Pettin, the defensive coordinator now, he's going to be more aggressive. They're betting on now. They're betting on the next 3 years. They have enough in the tank, and wherever they have to sprinkle, that's what they're going to do. But they're hoping with Mo Wilkerson in the middle, they can allow, whether it be Matthews or somebody on the edge, come and make plays for us that we can get to take some pressure off. But those young fellas in the back, they got to come up and play to that level. What you get with Aaron Rodgers is your run game in cold, dominating type circumstances. And we always talk about how weather impacts games for football. So where most teams have to now, shrink their game plan, they got to pull that thing in. There's going to be a lot more handoffs. That's not what Green Bay does. They'll still spread you out, man. They'll go 5 wides. It'll be a 40 mile an hour wind, and it's 18 below zero. That dude's still chucking it. Most guys can't do those things. So what they're allowing is they're gonna take the hits in the running back position if they don't draft well, or at offensive line, or maybe that third receiver. They're willing to take the risk because of what he can do. And I'm telling you, from what I've seen him do, barring injury, the guy has proven himself over and over and over that it's worth the risk financially to understand he's going to get you more wins. I mean, a guy like him gets you probably 9 wins a season, irrespective of everything else that goes on.
That's amazing. That's amazing to say.
Dude, there ain't many dudes getting you 9 wins. I'm just going to let you know.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to run out of time with you. I just want you to know, I have like a minute or two, but I want to get 2 questions in. You know how this works. Every time a quarterback comes up, a new market is set.
Absolutely.
There's Matt Ryan before that,
right.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Aren't you concerned at some point? In other words, where's the threshold? Who's the guy that's not going to give you the 9 wins? Who's the guy that's not transcendent, that's going to get paid?
The Kirk Cousins of the world. I'm with you. Listen, this is where general managers got to earn their money, right? When this happened to me with Bill Polian, right? When Bill Polian was my general manager, I come up for my contract. I wanted to be that, and I wanted to be the number 1 paid center in the game. And I sit down in his office, and he looks at me and just shoots me straight. He's like, Jeff, I can't make you the top paid center in the league. I can give you top 3 money, and you may have earned top 1 money, but we'll have a better football team with me surrounding you. You'll have a better career, the longevity you're going to have. All those things, potential to go, up into the Ring of Honor for the Colts or the Hall of Fame, whatever it is, whatever other thing you're chasing besides being the number 1 guy, I'm going to provide you that opportunity. That's where relationship between coach and player and general manager player matter. Because there are guys you look at and go, hey, bro, you ain't Aaron Rodgers. I hate to break it to you. I love you. You're great for me. You're my number 1, right? I'm your biggest cheerleader, but you're not that good. I got to help you with other guys, where in Aaron's case, it didn't have to have that same conversation.
I'm out of time. Can you do it really short?
Yeah.
What does Teddy Bridgewater, New Orleans say?
Tells you they think that that they have a shot at it all.
That's what I thought. This year.
Exactly. Right now is their time. Breeze goes down. He can spell you 4 to 6 games and win the whole thing, similar to what Philly did. That's what they got. That's what they told you with getting Bridgewater.
So Bridgewater is their Nick Foles.
That's him.
That's what they're banking.
That's him. They're banking. Right. He's the guy. Breeze goes down. He give you 4 to 6 of the best games of your life, baby. Doing Nick Foles impersonation, win the whole thing.
All right, good stuff as always, man.
Appreciate
really
you, brother.
Jeff Saturday here on the Will Cain Show. All right, so there you heard Saturday. Teddy Bridgewater is the present. This is the present backup for the Saints. Could he also be the future quarterback of the New Orleans Saints? That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Like, you can't just poke this bear. I mean, I'm not going to sit back and just take it. Was it Pat in the hallway yelling at me, when's the Eagles hate segment? And then is that Pat that put that sign up behind Cerruti?
That's the word on the street. Pat did that, yeah.
Eagles better than
They're Cowboys. A little cocky after.
They really are, Bubba. They really are. They're out here defacing my studio. Keep poking this bear. See what happens. Come at you like a tornado.
We'll check back during the season. We'll see how they're feeling then.
That's right. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. The New Orleans Saints trade for New York Jets backup Teddy Bridgewater. Is this a move, as Jeff Sarah just told us, to suggest the Saints are all in on this year? That Bridgewater is their Nick Foles. He is their insurance. He is there in case Drew Brees goes down, that their Super Bowl hopes don't go down with it. Or is he more than that? Is Teddy Bridgewater also the future quarterback of the New Orleans Saints? Let's listen to Bill Polian, ESPN NFL insider, on this fit.
Branch Rickey, the greatest general manager in baseball history, had an old saying that I've never forgotten, which is the only one you can win is the one you can win now. And New Orleans is in a win-now mode. They've got everything it takes to win, except a backup quarterback who can go in and play 6 to 8 games and keep them in the hunt if and when an injury, God forbid, should occur to Drew. They now have that guy. And they probably paid, I'm guessing, a dear price to get him because there is upside to this. If Teddy proves that he's the heir apparent, then they have an heir apparent. And they can sign him to a new contract, and they move ahead rather seamlessly.
Doesn't the price that New Orleans paid for Teddy Bridgewater suggest he's more than a one-year insurance policy? We talked about this pre-show. We talked about this before we even knew that Teddy Bridgewater was going to be traded. We said, what do you give up for Teddy Bridgewater? We talked about how many teams are out there. It's because Mike A. is on the show today. He's a New York Jets fan. You want to know what's the riches that the Jets are going to get? Signing Teddy off the street, giving him $5 million, and flipping him like a house on the DIY network? What are we going to get? It's like new money, free money. What do you get? And at that moment, earlier in the show, before Adam Schefter blew up our content, we were like, well, it's got to be a team that thinks they can win it this year. It's got to be a team who experiences an injury or hates their backup. And the team was actually threw out the Dallas Cowboys. What if Dak Prescott gets hurt? Cooper Rush doesn't look like he's good enough. But here's the question. At that time, we're like, well, the market can't be that big because it's dependent upon somebody suffering an injury. But obviously when it comes to the Saints, it wasn't dependent upon that. They were so displeased with their short-term backup situation, they gave a third. And that's got to tell you something to me. That means to me, they think more of Teddy Bridgewater than a one-year insurance policy. What's up, Cerruti?
If the Saints were so worried about this, though, they had an opportunity to sign him in the offseason.
So this is where you got to give the Jets some credit. They saw something there that obviously the rest of the league wasn't that interested in. Teddy Bridgewater, to use your words, Cerruti, you're the one who has said these kind of things. When he played with the Vikings, even when we had them in the playoffs, he was an average quarterback. And then he gets injured. The Jets were the ones willing to give him a shot, to try to rehabilitate him, to put him on the stage, to see if he could perform, to enhance his value. They were the team that bought, forgive the metaphor, please, but the rundown house in the neighborhood and fixed it up and now sells it at the top of the market. What's up, Mike A?
I was going to say, basically, when the Jets signed him, they didn't have Sam Darnold, and as we talked about a lot on this show, they didn't know that they were going to get Sam Darnold. They had the third pick, and people were talking about they might end up with a project like Josh Allen. So when they signed Teddy Bridgewater, they gave him both a platform to show that he was healthy, and they gave him a chance to start. When he lost that chance to start because they got Sam Darnold, then he was put on display. Come get me.
Yeah, and look, at a one-year, $5 million deal, it doesn't suggest the Jets had a ton of competition in rehabilitating Teddy Bridgewater, that he had dozens of options on which to build the highest bidder. By the way, on that note, we'll talk about this a little bit later on the show. It turns out the Jets were the highest bidder on Kirk Cousins. The Jets were the highest among, if not dozens, at least half a dozen teams bidding on Kirk Cousins. And, in fact, the highest bidding team. And Kirk Cousins passed on the Jets. And it's the best thing that ever happened to that franchise. Just like Garth said once again, it seems to be the philosophical lesson of the show. Sometimes God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. 1 year, third round draft
Is that Dylan Williams who sings that?
Dylan Miller, Bubba. Don't worry.
Whoever.
Oh, you can't trot it out there and get Dylan's name wrong.
I knew it was Dylan something.
Teddy Bridgewater. Who was it? Do we have the cut said Teddy Bridgewater's the perfect fit for the Saints system? Was that Saturday that just told me that? Is it right here?
You said that he told you that after the segment ended.
Oh, he didn't tell me that on air?
No.
What's this?
You're the one who told us that.
Oh, I told you that 5 minutes ago? And now I'm asking you who told me that?
Yeah,
somebody else
told
said
us what he told you.
It's been a busy day.
After this segment.
It's been a busy
You should have just taken credit for it.
Should I try to fit Robert in that minute, Bubba? I don't know. You got 30 seconds, Robert. Hard out. I got a hard out, Robert. Can you do it?
Yeah, I'll try, Will. Hey, listen, just want to make a comment about this Aaron Rodgers situation. I think all these NFL teams haven't figured out. There's 32 teams. I think all 31 have overpaid for all their quarterbacks. I'm wondering what GM has not figured out what they're doing correct in New England when they never overpaid for any position at any point in time ever since Bill Belichick's been there.
I hear you.
Hard network out.
And my man. Woo.
He's better than you.
Yeah. Robert, you can call in anytime you want at the last minute. All right, let's see if I can miss the heart out. Straight Talk, that's Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. It's true. When will people learn from the Patriots? More talk next.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Aaron Rodgers got paid and Teddy Bridgewater, well, he's a New Orleans Saint. Breaking news all throughout the day here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80. And on ESPN News. You can join the conversation, 888-729-3776. Coming up here shortly, Ohio State says, don't look at us. Don't see what we've done wrong. Look at this shiny object over here. Look. Tom Brady went to a strip club. I'm sorry, not Tom Brady. Just broke news there.
What?
I don't know how that happened. Tom Herman, University of Texas head coach, went to a strip club. Anyway, we'll get to strip clubs in a minute, okay? One of the things I find fascinating right now as we've done this show today, looking at our Twitter feed, looking at calls, is Aaron Rodgers gets a potential $180 million deal, $67 million in the next 4 months, $80 million in the next 6 months, and $103 million guaranteed. It's a $33.5 million a year average. All of those numbers I just told you blow everything out of the water. Matt Ryan was essentially top of the charts in total contract value, guaranteed average per year. And Aaron Rodgers has now absolutely blown all of his records out of the water. This is my favorite stat. Over the next 200 days, Aaron Rodgers will make $400,000 a day. He's really, really, really rich. But one of the fascinating things about this, as we hear from Packers fans, is I'm getting the sense they don't love it. I mean, I'm sure they want Aaron Rodgers on their team. But it's like this contract, and I've laid out on an annualized basis, it's up to 20% of their cap value, 20% of their total cap expenditures. $33 million a year on average on a $177 million a year cap, which will go up. But by the way, so could Aaron Rodgers' contract. It could go up to $37, $38 million a year if he makes the playoffs or is top 3 in passer rating. it seems to be making Packers fans nervous. Like Shelly, you don't love this? Shelly in Wisconsin?
No, well, I'm actually going to watch because he's going to be required to play all positions now because he's Superman.
Well,
and they're not going to be able to sign anybody over the next 4 years, as you have put it very eloquently. So they're going to be the same mediocre team that they have been with an easy division, lots of wins, at least 6 they're guaranteed. So, yeah, I mean, they shouldn't have paid him. They should have tagged him.
Well, should have tagged him, let his contract run out, just tag him.
I believe because, the Vikings are going to kick butt again, and, there might be a chance of a wild card. So, no, I don't think he's worth it. Maybe I would give him another year to see if he doesn't get hurt this year.
Let me play devil's advocate on one thing, Shelly. Let me ask you this. If it came down to it, and Aaron Rodgers was unhappy, and he didn't get his new deal, and he said, I want out, and he was disgruntled, would you let Aaron Rodgers walk even if he was taking up 20% of your cap like this?
Of course, because look at the quarterbacks that are coming in. Look at Carson Wentz. Look at Goff. All of them. These are some young kids that are some darn good quarterbacks at early age.
All right.
So, I mean, he started late because of, Favre. But, I just don't think he's worth it and that they're going to regret it. And I can't wait to hear the whining in Wisconsin that's going to happen.
You are a tough negotiator. Aaron Rodgers better be happy Shelly wasn't running that from the Green Bay Packers side of things. So, Rudy, find out if there's some way we can put this to Packers fans. I mean, I'd be very, very curious. Love, hate the deal. Where are Packers fans on Aaron Rodgers' new contract? One more. Dimitri in Canada. You're on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Dimitri?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Good.
Good. So you had a guy there just call in and talk about the Patriots underpaying its players. And, that only works because you have the greatest head coach maybe ever and arguably one of the 2 best quarterbacks ever in a winning system. Once a team's winning, great players want to go play, and they'll play for nothing. If the team's not good, you're never going to have that situation, and that's what all the other teams in the NFL have to deal with.
Yeah, but Dimitri, here's the thing. It's not just that players come to the Patriots willing to play for undervalued contracts. It's that the Patriots will send you on your way the minute they think that your contract exceeds your value. They're not going to overpay anybody. And I agree with you on this point. The main reason is because their quarterback provides them what is that golden ticket in the NFL. A quarterback on an undervalued contract. A quarterback on a discount. Because then you can spend the money and spread it around to other positions. The thing that makes the Patriots' salary cap work, I mean, I can say this with pure confidence. The thing that makes the Patriots' salary cap work is Tom Brady. Belichick may make the playmaking, the play calling, the roster building, the names that you fill in, but his ability to pay them, that's because Tom Brady's undervalued, taking a discount. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone on your ESPN app. Ohio State produced a document dump in the last 2 days. I think it was starting last night. And in that, there was a fascinating confirmation, a fascinating admission by Ohio State. It was that when Zach Smith, the former wide receivers coach, is the center of the storm for the Urban Meyer, what became the Urban Meyer controversy at Ohio State, when Zach Smith was accused of going to a strip club with high school football coaches, the assistant at Ohio State that accompanied him was then offensive coordinator of the Ohio State Buckeyes, now head coach of the University of Texas, Tom Herman. It's as though Ohio State, who didn't put out their 23-page report until after their news conference and crafted the ability of Urban Meyer and everybody else on that stage to dodge every question, the one detail they're willing to absolutely out front confirm and put to you is, oh yeah, it was Tom Herman that was at that strip club with Zach Smith. Look at the shiny object over here. Look at the Texas. Look at Tom Herman. I know I'm a fan. You may think I'm doing this. Is it not the easiest bait and switch distraction technique, most blatant, transparent thing you've ever seen? And for that matter, What does it have to do with anything? Tom Herman, for that matter, Zach Smith, they're grown men. Now, if they cheated, if they comp stuff to high school coaches, if they violated recruiting rules, that's a different story. But adult men going to a strip club? I told you on this show and on First Take that I thought Urban Meyer should be fired for the totality of Zach Smith's transgressions at Ohio State. Not for any one. So if Tom Herman went to a strip club, guess what? You only have another dozen incidences to go for it to become a real scandal by Ohio State standards. And by the way, the rumor, and it's barely a rumor worth mentioning except it's now becoming part of Ohio State's narrative, was that Tom Herman was the tipster to Brett McMurphy's original report about Ohio State. It's unconfirmed. Tom Herman adamantly denies it. Brett McMurphy adamantly denies it, that he was the source for the story. But Zach Smith has taken to Twitter today. Really some of the first big message you've heard from Zach Smith in the last couple of weeks. Broken his silence. Tweeted multiple times. Referenced Tom Herman. Zach Smith's tweets I'll share with you coming up soon here on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. And we're going to talk a little college football with Trevor Matich next. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Let's talk some college football with the host of College Game Day on ESPN Radio, Trevor Matich, who's in studio. All right, I want to talk just good old football. We'll get to the controversy stuff in a minute. We'll get to Zach Smith. We'll get to Ohio State at the tail end here with Trevor Matich. But let's just start with the top line. Give me, Trevor, your 4 college football playoff finalists.
All right, Ohio or Clemson and Alabama. Anybody that doesn't put those two in, I think, is committing malpractice. Then it gets a little different. I've got Ohio State as number 3, and my number 4 is Notre Dame.
You are the only analyst. I went through, they put it up on ESPN.com this morning. It's something like, 20 or 30 college football analysts gave their 4 picks, their 4 playoff picks. And I was curious, because I'm toying with Notre Dame. I'm going to do mine by the end of this week, but I'm toying with Notre Dame. They look good this year, and you're the only one that put Notre Dame in the playoffs.
Let me tell you the one thing that has to happen for Notre Dame to be a playoff team. That is the quarterback, Brandon Wimbush, has got to get himself out of his own head and start to throw as his physical capabilities allow. Last year, he showed that he was a terrific runner. But as the year went on, he lost his confidence to where he was starting to miss easy throws, the bubble screens, the short slants, where a guy would be wide open with no defender near him, and he would throw the ball into the dirt at his feet. It's not a physical thing, it's a mental thing. By all accounts, this offseason, he's done a much better job at picking up his passing skills and getting his confidence back. And Michigan is a difficult team to start with if you're trying to build confidence now.
This weekend,
their defense is
Michigan,
fantastic.
Notre Dame.
But if Brandon Wimbush can throw the ball as well as he physically is able, then Notre Dame is absolutely a playoff contender.
So I'm going to have to, obviously, if Notre Dame's in the playoffs, you're picking them to beat Michigan this weekend.
Yes.
All right, let me ask you about a few of the teams that I'm toying with here when I put mine together. I'm sort of on this Wisconsin bandwagon. I like offensive lines. I like running game. I like defense. And look, Hornibrook is just the kind of quarterback that you kind of go, he may not be able to win it all for him, but he can guide a competent team pretty far.
I think that pick by you of Wisconsin is fantastic. I almost went with them over Ohio State. their defense will be fine. They've got all conference performers at all three levels. It's the offense, Will. Wisconsin's offense this year might be the best they've ever had.
Well, why didn't you pick Wisconsin?
Ever. Because I think that Ohio State, because of the turmoil that's been surrounding their head coach, will be driven together as players in the locker room, as a band of brothers more strongly than they ever could if there wasn't outside turmoil. Now, I'm not saying that there's any value attached to the underlying foundation of that turmoil. I'm just talking about what happens inside the locker room with the players, no matter what the turmoil is. I think they will come out with their hair on fire. I think they will be a much more mature team, and I think they will have greater ownership. But Wisconsin, if it's not going to be Ohio State, it's going to be Wisconsin out of that conference.
Wow, you think all of this is going to bring Ohio State together? It's going to get that New England Patriots feel to it. Everybody else is against us type thing?
What happened after Spygate?
Yeah, they were undefeated.
18-0, right? 18-0. And then it was a couple of miracle catches in the Super Bowl thrown by Eli Manning that kept them from being 19-0.
Yeah, but those are grown men. I mean, they're not college kids. Let's put it that way.
No. Listen, we never grow up that way. Listen, people say things. It still makes us respond the same way. Bulletin board material still matters. Now, we handle it, I think, in a more calm way now. But underneath, it still matters. And so when it comes to what we're talking about with Ohio State, the best teams are the ones with the best leadership. And Ohio State already had great veteran leadership, but now they're driven together because the only other choice is to fragment. You either come together or you fragment. I think Ohio State will come together.
Trevor Matich here on the Will Cain Show, ESPN's college football analyst. What is, either in your BYU playing career, because Trevor won a national championship with BYU, or as an ESPN analyst, what's the biggest piece of bulletin board material anybody's ever given you that you wake up every day driven to get or prove that person wrong? You know you have it. You just talked it up.
Yeah. There's one that I'm not going to talk about because it's recent.
Really?
Yeah, and it's good. And let me tell you, the fire is burning hot on this one, but I'm not going to talk about it publicly.
Give me some context.
No.
It's certainly not a Twitter troll or something like that.
No.
It's got to be a person you know.
It was something that was worthy of this kind of thing. So, and it's fairly recent. But I will say this though.
I'm so mad I can't get it out of you. I want to know it so bad.
At BYU, it was Michigan. We played Michigan in the Holiday Bowl. And beat them in order to go 13-0 and get the national championship awarded to us. This is my senior year. Michigan that year was a top 5 ranked team early in the season. They had like 8 guys lost to injury, including their starter, Jim Harbaugh, quarterback. Then and they lost a few games. By the time we came to the Holiday Bowl, everybody was back except Harbaugh. So the Michigan team we played was one of the best teams in the country, frankly. But Bo Schembechler hated it that he was stuck in the Holiday Bowl against this backwater team from Utah, BYU, to the point that they didn't even show up for a lunch on the hangar deck of an aircraft carrier at the naval base in San Diego. We were at our tables, and all theirs were just white tablecloths,
really?
Just a mass of empty over there. He hated it. And they had Big Ten necks, which start at your ears and end up at the outside of your shoulders, right? And we all had these little skinny necks, all that. We went out there, and it was a physical game on both sides. But we pounded them. We threw it over them. We threw it around them. We ran the ball. We stopped them on defense. And when it came down to making the plays at the end, we made the plays. And I tell you, part of it was because all week we knew that those guys with the Big Ten necks thought that we were puny and we didn't belong. And I loved it. Just loved it. And it still feels good.
Host of College Game Day, Trevor Matich here on the Will Cain Show. Okay, I don't even want to talk about Zach Smith stuff because I have more football questions.
Okay.
Another team I'm toying with, Washington. Out in the Pac-12. Pac-12 is not very good this year. You can talk about USC, but they're starting a freshman quarterback. And look, we just saw Jake Fromm do what freshman quarterback can do, or Tua Tagovailoa for that matter. Washington I'm toying with. What do you think of Washington?
Washington, I worry about. I think their defense is solid. Their O-line is stout. They've got some young but good receivers to throw to. As a Pac-12 contender, they're great. They'll very likely win the Pac-12. As a playoff contender and to do well in the playoffs, I worry about one thing, and that is the arm strength of their quarterback, Jake Browning. Browning is one of the smartest quarterbacks, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football, but his arm is under strength. So if he's got a clean pocket, he can throw the ball earlier than most quarterbacks will. so that it takes longer in flight to get where it needs to go, but because he threw it earlier, it still gets there on time. The problem is if the pocket isn't clean, if he's got defenders all around his legs, making him move, making him throw off his back leg, things like that, arm only. I don't believe he has the arm strength to overcome that, and he loses some of those throws from his repertoire. So he might prove me wrong. I hope he does because I love him as a quarterback. But as a playoff team, you need a quarterback that can function at a high level when things are breaking down.
We're running out of time. I wish we could talk about our disagreement, including the fact that you're big on Kyler Murray, and I don't buy it. Maybe you saw
can't believe you're not big on Kyler Murray.
Well, he went to A&M and OU. I have a few things going against me there, but I didn't say. What do you do? Seen Denton Ryan good high school tape? What did you see something at A&M? Like what turns you on to Kyler Murray taking OU anywhere?
I watched him last year. He's a lot faster than Baker Mayfield, and in the few throws that he had last year, he made throws under pressure accurately with poise last year. Now he's got to do it as a starter, and in baseball. You throw the ball from the outfield to home plate, you don't have somebody hit you in the mouth just after you throw it.
He's tiny, he's going to get hit, and he's going to say, where's my millions from baseball?
But he did that last year. Now, that millions from baseball might be a problem. I mean, the first time he has to pick some of his teeth up off the turf and put them back in his mouth to run the next play, he might be thinking, I don't want to invest in new teeth as much as I'm being forced to right now. So that may be a problem. I love Kyler Murray.
All right, we'll be talking all college football season long. Appreciate you, man.
All right, cool.
It's Trevor Matich on the Will Cain Show, which is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings, proud sponsor of the College Game Day Tour with Trevor and the crew, live this Saturday from South Bend as Michigan takes on Notre Dame. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Coming up, the Packers made Aaron Rodgers the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Again, but will this hold Green Bay back? Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Ow. Yep, you guessed it. I'm a speed bump, so I've got one job. I slow you down. So imagine how I feel about Geico, who does way more. Like, not only could they save you money on car insurance, but they've been around for over 75 years, giving people fast and friendly claim service. Ow. Plus, they got a nifty mobile app that gives you 24/7 access. Ow. Just doing my job, buddy.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
The Green Bay Packers could have handed Aaron Rodgers a blank check.
Major news from the NFL. Aaron Rodgers believed to be a 4-year, $134 million extension.
This guy is as competitive as any quarterback I've ever been around.
The money's nice. Of course it's nice, but the juice is the respect.
He has earned everything that has ever come his way.
He's worth $100 million. It's not a question that he's worth that money.
I promised you that I'd share with you some of the tweets that Zach Smith, former wide receivers coach from Ohio State, who's at the center of the storm of controversy with that program and Urban Meyer, I'd share with you some of the things he's been tweeting over the past couple of hours because he's taken to the medium to share his thoughts on Courtney Smith, ESPN, Brett McMurphy, journalists, Urban Meyer, and Tom Herman. All of that. I'll share with you those tweets here in just about 15 minutes on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. But the news of the moment is twofold. It's that Teddy Bridgewater is a New Orleans Saint. He's been traded from the New York Jets to the New Orleans Saints for a reported third-round draft pick and perhaps some change. And Aaron Rodgers is going to make more than a little change with the Green Bay Packers. He has a new record-setting, potentially $180 million deal with guarantees over $100 million, annual averages in the mid-30s, and all of it front-loaded heavily to getting $67 million in the next 4 months and $80 million in the next 6 months. To help us understand the Packers' perspective and what this deal means, is ESPN Packers reporter Rob Domofsky on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Rob, can I just start with this? I'm a little surprised, and I'm doing a radio show, and whenever you get callers or you get social media feedback, it's never reality. I think we always have to remind ourselves that. It's not an accurate reflection of whatever the consensus opinion is. But I'm a little taken aback, Rob, that a lot of it from Packers fans is, don't love this deal. Makes me nervous. How are they going to fill out the rest of the team? What do you think?
You know what? Here's the thing, Will. When he did his deal, his last deal, 5 years, $110 million back in 2013, at that time, it accounted for like 13% of the salary cap. This deal right now, when the new part of it kicks in, will be like 14% of their salary cap. It's the same. It is not. He has not cost the Packers any more relative to the cap, which basically means they're in no worse a position as far as being able to sign other players than they were the last time he did this deal, and that deal was considered a very friendly deal for both sides. His cap numbers never got over like $20.9 million in the old deal. And as you think about some of the big quarterback deals, Will, that had been done since then, they put their teams in cap trouble. Drew Brees, Joe Flacco come to mind. Both those caps got like in the near $30 million mark. I think it was like $28 million for Flacco, and they ended up having to redo it. Packers never had to do that with the old Aaron Rodgers deal. And my guess is when we see how it all breaks down in a day or two, it'll be the same thing now. So, yes, we're just talking about bigger dollars and bigger cap numbers, but we're not talking about any more significance in terms of percentage of cap, and that's what people should realize about these
Rob, and I'm happy to admit a mistake if I've made one, but that's in direct contradiction to what I've just back of the enveloped it. And I've got to be honest, it is a back of the envelope because none of us have seen the ins and outs of the deal, as you just said.
Thing.
But here's what quick, Rob, just the way I see it is, according to Schefter and what we've reported on ESPN, it is now a $33.5 million annual average. With incentives, it could go up to $37 million. Right. And the cap's at 177. To me, the numbers right there it's north of 20% of your cap. So how does that get managed?
Well, here's what you got to figure. There's carryover from what they didn't use before, which you have to figure. Like last year, for example, they carried over like $15 million in unused salary cap. So yes, the cap. What did you say it was? 170 something or whatever it is.
Yeah, 177.
The Packers didn't use 15, so their adjusted cap is that number plus $15 million. So those all have to be factored in. Adjusted cap is really what it comes down to. The other thing is the cap's going to keep
Rob,
going.
Why does this stuff have to be so complicated? Can't they just have guaranteed contracts like the NBA and we can figure it out? It's like, you got to know freaking algebra or something more advanced than that to figure this out.
Because there would be no math, right? That's why I got into journalism, because there would be no math.
Yeah, I was told.
Yeah, but no, I think the bottom line at the end of this, Will, the point is the Packers were never going to do a deal that was going to handcuff them in terms of their ability to sign other players. Now, look, they're not going to go out and sign everybody. That's just, even though they have a new GM who did bring in Jimmy Graham and Muhammad Wilkerson, they're still not going to be free agent crazy. They're going to be a little bit more free agent active than they had been. And this deal will allow them to do that.
All right, so we need to bear into these numbers. I want to find out if I've been wrong. I want to correct myself.
Yeah, but your point was right though. Like until we actually see the actual numbers and how it's all how it all breaks down, which will probably be in the next day or two. Then we'll have a better idea.
All right, ESPN Packers reporter Rob Demovsky here on the Will Cain Show. But now back to my original question as well, and I did want to do this with you anyway. I wanted to break down the numbers as you understood them. Do you sense, I think you've already told me from the Packers front office situation, they don't feel like they're hamstringing themselves. They don't feel like they're putting the rest of the roster in jeopardy. And yet I am getting the sense from some Packers fans, even if it's status quo, Rob, there's this sense that we've got so much tied up in the quarterback. And look, he's great. Nobody denies that, right? That we can't build a team around him. I'm getting that sense. Just tell me, is that inaccurate? Are most Packers fans like break the bank, whatever you have to do?
Yeah, here's the thing. It's not inaccurate, but it's the reality of the NFL when you have, one of the great quarterbacks. I mean, let's find a team that has a top 5 quarterback and also has, one of the top 5 highest paid, defensive players too. It doesn't happen. Look at who's Von Miller, right? Is he the highest paid defensive player in the league? What are they paying their quarterback?
It's about to be Aaron Donald, and Jared Goff is on his rookie deal still.
On his rookie deal, exactly. I mean, why is Khalil Mack having so much trouble getting a deal done? Because Derek Carr's money is big, right? I mean, it's just it's another reason why the Packers probably wouldn't be in the Khalil Mack sweepstakes, even though there would be a lot of natural fit for them to do that. It's just you cannot pay 2 players, $55 million combined, or have it count that much of your salary cap. It's just, what are you going to do? Pay everybody else? Pay the other 51 players the minimum? That's just not how it works.
All right, really good stuff, Rob. Thanks for your insight, and make sure you correct me wherever I am on social media here if I'm wrong. I'm serious.
Yeah, let's talk again when we get the numbers. But yeah, I mean, let's just see how it breaks down. But your points are all accurate and well taken.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rob. We'll be talking to you.
All right, we'll be seeing you. Yep.
All right, coming up, one guy you don't want to take advice from is Mychal Kendricks, Browns linebacker. I don't know if the whole Bitcoin expert when he was an Eagle in the locker room would have been a warning sign, but he just got charged with insider trading. Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Just having a conversation with our Packers reporter about the Green Bay Packers devoting so much of their cap, so much money to the quarterback position, and whether or not it compromises your team on the other side of the ball, whether or not you can pay defenders, whether or not you can pay other players. And it was Rob Demovsky and I just kind of going through. Look at Khalil Tate. The Raiders are having trouble paying Khalil Tate because they have so much money. What? Oh, Khalil Tate's quarterback of Arizona. I'm moving on to college pretty quick here. Big college football weekend. I'm pumped. You guys pumped?
Not as pumped as you, apparently.
Oh, man. I'm starting at noon. I got UT Maryland. I'm rolling straight in to Washington Auburn, which rolls straight in to Notre Dame, Michigan. And you can do the flip around on the other games, but those three need some undivided attention.
Nice little Saturday you got playing there.
Yeah, Home Depot. I don't know if there's going to be enough
Bath
time.
and Beyond.
Yeah. So I wanted to look at it really quickly. Cerruti, give me the highest paid defenders in the NFL, and let's just see if they're paying their quarterbacks. Is it true? By the way, you got me off track. Why are the Raiders having so much of a hard time paying Khalil Mack? Well, because they're giving Derek Carr so much money. So how many teams are able to pull it off or paying both sides of the ball big time? What'd I do? Why are you laughing at now?
Because you're blaming Mike A. It was your fault. It's not Mike's fault.
It is Mike's fault.
It
got me off track.
He was correcting an error that you had made.
I'm trying to do Marconi-level announcing here. All right? This is professional broadcasting. This is ratings through the roof. We're redefining the genre here, and you're over here while Picasso's painting the Sistine Chapel roof.
Always have to take it that far.
Saying that he shouldn't paint Adam with two left hands.
I just want to see if he was going to catch me on Picasso. But you idiots didn't even know it was Michelangelo.
The 16th chapel?
It's the 16th chapel.
Picasso painted the 15th.
Picasso stood on his head for years while he painted the 16th chapel. Not the 15th, and he ignored the 17th. But when he nailed down the 16th, that's what made Picasso famous. All right, give me the highest paid defenders really quickly.
Von Miller's number one.
Not paying a quarterback. Well, Case Keenum is now getting, $18 million a year, but it's just really a 1.5-year deal. So
Ezekiel Ansah, Lions, defensive end.
Yes, paying a quarterback. Matt Stafford's making big money. Total guarantee $60 million. He's making $27 million year average. So there you go.
Your boy DeMarcus Lawrence,
not paying a quarterback.
Fletcher Cox,
not paying a quarterback.
Eagles, for those who don't know. Olivier Vernon,
paying a quarterback. Where's Eli these days? What is Eli getting? Oh yeah, right there. He is $21 million a year on average. I mean, he's down around whatever it may be, 12th now in highest paid, but that's still big money.
Justin Houston, Chiefs linebacker.
Not paying a quarterback.
J.J. Watt.
Not paying a quarterback.
Chandler Jones. Not really paying a quarterback.
Sam Bradford's on a short-term deal, so you have to go not.
Geno Atkins. Bengals.
Where is Andy Dalton? 16. Where do you think Andy Dalton is?
Middle of the pack.
Middle of the pack. Getting paid as well. I don't know. You look at this. I mean, look, the top paid quarterbacks in the league are Matt Ryan. Falcons aren't paying a defender. Kirk Cousins. This is the great mystery. Vikings are pulling it all off because they're paying Everson Griffin. They're paying Xavier Rhodes. They're paying Daniil Hunter. They're paying Anthony Barr yet? He's probably getting pretty big money himself. Right now, they're paying everybody, it seems like. Linval Joseph, they're paying him. All right. I think the point still holds true. You pay one place, like the Packers have chosen to do. You sacrifice in another. Zach Smith, former wide receiver coach at Ohio State, center of the controversy at that university. He's broken some silence, and he went to Twitter today. This is what he's had to say over the last several hours. He said, tweeting first, "Hey, Brett McMurphy, Paul Feinbaum, and everyone at ESPN. Look at these faces. You heartless and moralless clowns. Every lie or dramatic version of the truth you report, you hurt these precious children, just like their mom has and continues to. Do you have families? Kids?" He posts a picture of his kids along with that accusation. Zach Smith fired off, 10 or so tweets. Here's another one. "Hey, Brett McMurphy, quick few questions because you're an outstanding journalist. Number one, how'd you get that interview with Coach Herman as your first interview at Watch Stadium?" He's accusing Brett McMurphy there of getting access to Tom Herman. You can read between the lines, suggesting Tom Herman is the source behind a lot of this. That's been denied by both Brett McMurphy and Tom Herman. He also says, "How come you didn't ask Herman about the alleged strip club incident that you reported about?" Then he says, "Did you ask Herman about any of the ensuing few days? Have you vetted any credibility in any of your reports?" He goes on and on, talks about his kids. He says he never, ever beat his wife, that the investigation was botched, and the punishment was worse, the punishment for Urban Meyer, and that Meyer was forced to make this statement, apologizing for something that never happened. That is what Zach Smith is tweeting about just here in the last couple of hours. I don't think this story is over. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how far it's going to go. I'll tell you this on First Take today, when I guest hosted with Andrew Hawkins and Jason Fitz, who did a wonderful job debating, by the way. No gratuitous compliments. Don't tell people their dogs are cute in the park unless they really are. Even when I had a dog, and I had a great-looking dog. I had a Doberman, just regal. He's passed. But that Doberman, people come over, "Your dog's so good-looking." You know how you're supposed to say, "Oh, yours too." Couldn't. Not unless their dog really was cute. So I don't give gratuitous compliments. Hawkins and Fitz did a great job. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So Paul Feinbaum was on. Do you know what he said? He said he didn't think Urban Meyer is going to be there beyond this year. This is at Ohio State. That's what Feinbaum had to say. Said he'll walk away like he's walked away before from controversy and from programs. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, home, boat, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. What are the Saints' plans with Teddy Bridgewater? Is he their long-term option or just an insurance policy this coming year? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS-ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
$400,000 a day for the next 200 days. That's what Aaron Rodgers is going to get paid as he signs or agrees to a contract extension with the Green Bay Packers, making him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL with a contract value of $176 to $180 million, $33 million a year, over $100 million in guarantees, and $67 million of it in the next 4 months alone. That will be a nice little fall for Aaron Rodgers. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and ESPN News. But he's not the only quarterback making news today. The third-string quarterback of the New York Jets, who's been much more than a third-string quarterback, who's been much more of a newsmaker over the last several weeks, is Teddy Bridgewater performed on the practice field, and Teddy Bridgewater performed in the preseason games. The conversation week after week after week is, where does Teddy Bridgewater go? Who trades for him? What's he worth? Those questions were answered a little bit earlier today as Adam Schefter reports the New Orleans Saints have traded for Teddy Bridgewater. They have paid the price of a third-round draft pick by most reports. It's possible there's some extra compensation involved in that as well. And according to the conversation I just had on the Will Cain Show with Jeff Saturday, which you can download on the ESPN app or on the Apple iTunes podcast, this is a perfect fit for Teddy Bridgewater. This system with Sean Payton, Teddy Bridgewater will look better than he ever did in Minnesota and look better than he ever did in New York. So let's get a few more details. What exactly was the trade compensation and what's this marriage going to look like? To do so, let's go to ESPN Saints reporter Mike Triplett on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike, first of all, can you tell us, because it seems like nobody's quite nailed down with certainty, what it is the Saints paid for Teddy Bridgewater?
Yeah, I think Adam Schefter reported that they give up the third and the Jets give a sixth back in addition to Bridgewater. So not quite a full third, but, essentially a third, the way we look at those late-round picks.
I wonder what the math is on that. I said before the show fifth. Did I win that by Mike A? I don't think so. I think a third. I'm honestly, Mike, I'm a little surprised. It's a higher price than I anticipated would be paid for Teddy Bridgewater. And the main reason why I thought it would be a lower price has nothing to do with how good I think Bridgewater is. It's just I wondered what the market was for a quarterback when everybody's already pretty much set at starter. And until an injury happens, somebody's trading for a backup, somebody who has Super Bowl aspirations this year. That somebody is obviously the Saints. So is this telling me Teddy Bridgewater is just an insurance policy on a year they think they're a contender, or is he more to the Saints than that?
Well, look, it's a great question because I'm as stunned as you are that this was the price for the insurance policy. If he is Drew Brees' successor, I love this deal. If they had signed him as a free agent back in April to a 2 or 3 year deal to try him out for a little while, I love it. But, he only has 1 year on his contract, and they hope he doesn't play this year. So it's hard to say he's going to be Drew Brees' successor. I think he's going to cost a lot for any team to sign in free agency next year now that he's shown he's healthy. So, what they get with this deal is just the 1 year contract. And we all understand the value of backup quarterbacks because of the Nick Foles scenario and the way that played out. But I'm pretty surprised the way teams value draft picks. If the Saints wanted to have the backup position secured, that they didn't do it earlier this offseason when they wouldn't have had to make a trade for it. But I think it really speaks to how unenthusiastic they were about their own backup options this summer.
Yeah, which is weird, Mike, by the way, because every time I turned around, I thought the Saints were talking up Taysom Hill, that he was the quarterback potentially of the future, that he was Drew Brees' heir apparent, and now they don't want to go into a season with him as their backup option.
Yeah, and I didn't think they would. I thought Tom Savage would be the backup this year, a little more vanilla, a little bit solid, unspectacular, and keep Taysom Hill and keep developing him. Because as exciting as Taysom Hill is, I didn't think he was quite ready to be the backup in week one. But I still want to see the day where Sean Payton gets time to game plan around Taysom Hill, who's a dual threat quarterback. I mean, the offense would look completely different. We'd be seeing read option. We'd see some exciting stuff. But, I thought it was going to be Tom Savage as the backup, and this is a lot to pay for a guy who is now going to come in and start learning the playbook tomorrow.
Do you think, and I think we have some sound from Bill Polian, I talked to Jeff Saturday, as you heard me say, well, first of all, this means they're in, right? Like, the Saints believe they can win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, you have to think that. Like I said, you love the idea that they're doing this for the future, and they like Bridgewater to be the next guy and try to keep him for 10 years, but that's not what they got in this deal. So you're right. This is a we're in even if we lose Brees. And I would have thought the Saints couldn't win without Drew Brees in the past, but they're actually built a little differently now. They have one of the best offensive lines in football, one of the best run games in football, and a growing young defense. So I think they could win with Teddy Bridgewater if needed, even if they do lose Drew Brees.
All right. It's good stuff, Mike. Really appreciate your time today.
All right, anytime.
ESPN Saints reporter Mike Triplett here on the Will Cain Show. Mike makes a great point. So this isn't necessarily the run-and-gun New Orleans Saints of the past. Drew Brees, lighten up your fantasy football league. This is Alvin Kamara, Melvin Ingram running the ball down teams' throats. This is an offensive line that can keep a quarterback up on his feet, that can dominate a game. This is a team that can rely on its defense to some extent to win ball games. And if you've got a team like that, maybe you can win even if you don't have a Drew Brees. Maybe you can win if you have a guy who's been a game manager throughout his career. Maybe you can win with a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. Bill Polian thinks it's a good fit.
Branch Rickey, the greatest general manager in baseball history, had an old saying that I've never forgotten, which is the only one you can win is the one you can win now. And New Orleans is in a win-now mode. They've got everything it takes to win, except a backup quarterback who can go in and play 6 to 8 games and keep them in the hunt if and when an injury, God forbid, should occur to Drew. They now have that guy. And they probably paid, I'm guessing, a dear price to get him because there is upside to this. If Teddy proves that he's the heir apparent, then they have an heir apparent, and they can sign him to a new contract, and they move ahead rather seamlessly.
Teddy Bridgewater is now a New Orleans Saint. I told you this a little bit earlier in the show. Mychal Kendricks is a linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. Do you guys remember when we talked about Mychal Kendricks back in the day a little bit? Mychal Kendricks, when I was doing the show with Russillo, there was reports coming out of Philadelphia, he was an Eagle at the time, that the Eagles locker room was very into Bitcoin. A lot of guys getting ready to get... How's Bitcoin doing these days, by the way? I haven't been keeping up with the Bitcoin price. When it comes to professional football, at least in the Eagles locker room, Mychal Kendricks was the go-to man. He was the guy telling you when and when not to buy or mine or whatever it is you do with more Bitcoin. He's the guy helping you supposedly understand that which is impossible to understand. What's Bitcoin doing?
Not great.
No?
Well, I mean, it's over $7,000 for one Bitcoin, but in December, so, a little under a year ago, it was double that, 16, 17. So
all about timing.
Maybe he sold at the right time. Maybe he's smarter than we thought.
We need to check in with Mychal Kendricks on how he's doing with his Bitcoin. Did he get out when the getting was good? I have to tell you, he's also been charged with insider trading. He's now a Cleveland Browns linebacker, and he just got charged with insider trading. So I'll fill you in on what's going on with Mychal Kendricks. And speaking of quarterbacks getting paid, the Jets traded one away. They got one in the draft, and they might have dodged a bullet when they were rejected this past year. I'll fill you in on that unanswered prayer next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
You got something to say to Will? Call the Will Cain Show now. 888-SAY-ESPN.
Zach from Las Vegas. You're not even going to let me have my wins, huh, Zach?
Will Cain, huge fan. I am unsure how the executives at ESPN let someone who is so unequivocally wrong all of the time host their own show on the air to feed lies to the American people about what is right and what is wrong when it comes to anything related to sports. In my opinion, I think you're a raging alcoholic and that you make really misinformed opinions.
Tell me more.
You clearly have a drinking problem.
I'm not even going to cut you off. Tell me more. What else? Tell me more of my problems.
I think that you might be addicted to opioids as well. Your eyes are pretty pinned on a regular basis.
The sweet, sultry tones of Dylan Miller. If you're just tuning in, you haven't been a long-time listener of the Will Cain Show, don't let your ears be deceived.
Yeah, so now that you're back in studio, you're confident that's not Garth?
I'm so confident I'd put Aaron Rodgers' new contract on the line to tell you that right there is Dylan Miller and not Garth Brooks.
All right, just want to make sure. You have your earpiece and everything now. We just wanted to make sure.
I'd double down with Kirk Cousins' offer from the New York Jets. That right there is not Garth Brooks. 100% confident.
All right.
I'm so confident I'm in the unlikability stage of confidence. You know what I mean? That range that I flirt with on a day-to-day basis. Most of the time I'm over the line. Okay, I understand what you want to say, Rudy.
What, your personality?
Yeah, you know that. I hate that guy.
Not just like it's an act. It's just that's you. That's you every day.
Here's what I like to say to that usually. Right is right. It's truly independent of me. And if it offends you that I'm sharing righteousness with you, it's more about you than it is me, okay? So go look in the mirror and figure out why it offends you, what's true. By the way, I'm not just spreading lies to the American people. There are a lot of Canadian listeners as well. And so I'm working on worldwide, boats and whatever. Worldwide entertainment. Prestige worldwide lies being spread here. Truthfully, I did spread a lie. It's not. Did I say Melvin Ingram, running back for the New Orleans Saints?
I don't think we caught that, but it's not surprising because it's like the fifth name you've messed up today.
I got up at – I'm making excuses for myself.
Yep, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. I did get up at 4:30, and that's all fine and dandy for the first half of the day, but towards the back end, I think there's science on this. My brain – I'll bet you right now my brain is operating at about a 3 or 4 drink basis. It's as though I've had 3 beverages. I'll bet you when you're that tired, I'd like to know how compromised my brain is right now. Like sleep deprivation.
Maybe that's what the caller Zach was talking about. He thought you were an alcoholic because he caught you on a day that, you woke up at 4:30.
Well, he didn't, but he said opioid addict as well.
Oh, you have that issue too, yeah.
You got bad eyes.
I'm sleep deprived. That's today. Sleep deprived. First take in this, 4:30 a.m. You're listening to a drunk host right now. Hey, by the way, but I'm not a criminal, or at least I'm not even accused of it. I'm not alleged. I'm not charged with anything yet, like they said in Stripes. Not convicted? No, not convicted. Neither is Mychal Kendricks convicted. Here it is. He has been charged by federal prosecutors with insider trading. Remember, Mychal Kendricks was then an Eagles linebacker, and he was the Bitcoin expert in the Eagles locker room. Then he moves on, signs a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Browns, and he is charged with making $1.2 million in illegal profits on 4 major investments some 4 years ago. He received inside tips on stocks that he traded in. That is a no-no. That's against the law. That's insider trading. Kendricks said this: I would like to apologize. 4 years ago, I participated in insider trading, and I deeply regret it. I invested money with a former friend of mine who I thought I could trust and who I greatly admired. His background as a Harvard graduate and an employee of Goldman Sachs gave me a false sense of confidence. Haven't we all been there? Those Harvard grads, those Goldman Sachs guys, you just want to trust them. Walk around with those gold-plated resumes. But you can't. Mychal Kendricks, charged with insider trading. But the reason that Bubba played unanswered prayers coming into this segment, the reason that he played that again today, is because of news coming out about Kirk Cousins and the New York Jets. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Remember, you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. Kirk Cousins, in a fascinating little NFL Life video, revealed what he was offered by the New York Jets. During the video, we get a glimpse into his negotiations. One of the things he does, by the way, is he Googles teams and their offensive coordinators before free agency begins. Sometimes these guys are just like us. They're just fans. But he turns to his wife in the video and he says to his wife, Julie, the Jets came up to 30. Fully guaranteed, 3-year deal. That's a $90 million deal over 3 years with $30 million a year. Guaranteed. She looks at him and says, whoa. Cousins says, now we have what we wanted. Now we got to see if we can get the Vikings to come up. We got to get them up from 25 to a number that's competitive with the Jets offer. But the fact that we have the Jets offer is huge. Now it gives other teams a reason to come up. Of course, the Vikings did come up, but not all the way to $90 million. They came up to $84 million, and Kirk Cousins eventually took less money than what the Jets offered to go sign with the Vikings. He debated this in the video, by the way. He says, how much should I make this about the money? As a retired player looking back, do you wish you'd made more money or you'd won more games? The hope would be that this decision is for 2 or 3 years. This is a decision. Hold on. This says the hope would be this isn't a decision for 2 or 3 years, but it's for decades. It could be a place where we end up staying and raising our kids. This is a life-altering decision. Here's the deal for the Jets. This is a not just Dylan Miller, but Garth Brooks level unanswered prayer. The New York Jets today have to be so surprised that Kirk Cousins turned their bigger offer down, because if you had the choice between Sam Darnold on his rookie contract or Kirk Cousins at $90 million guaranteed, you have to take the Sam Darnold option. You have to be excited where it ended up. You have the golden ticket of an underpaid quarterback on a rookie deal. And by the way, a quarterback today that everybody is singing the praises of. Tony Romo's out there on sound that I can't play because it's on other networks talking about that Sam Darnold is the real deal. So let me ask you this. Would you rather have Sam Darnold for about $8 million a year or Kirk Cousins for $30 million a year? Let's go to our Jets fan. Mike A., how happy are you that you're cheering for Sam Darnold and not Kirk Cousins this year?
I am ecstatic, but we did talk about this, and I will say that at the time I was very upset. I was very upset we missed out on Kirk Cousins, and if I would have seen this then, I would have been furious.
Yeah, well, you've been insulted because he took less money to go somewhere else. No, thank you. Your extra $6 million feels dirty to Kirk Cousins. He'd rather go win in Minnesota. What's up, Cerruti?
Yeah, but if they didn't get Sam Darnold, would we be thinking about this differently? Say they got Josh Allen, or say Darnold went 1 and they got Baker Mayfield at 3. Do you still feel the same way?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know about that.
I don't know who I'd rather have Baker still than Sam Darnold.
All right, what if it was Josh Rosen or Josh Allen?
We'll see about Josh Rosen, and I think we'll see about Josh
basically,
Allen.
It has everything to do with Sam Darnold. We think that he's going to be the next
doesn't.
guy.
It doesn't have anything to do with Sam Darnold. It has to do with rookie quarterbacks on those deals that you can believe in versus the price of Kirk Cousins, who's slightly above average. I'm not ready to write off any of those guys. Rosen, Allen, Darnold, and certainly not Mayfield. All right. We have a reporter next, right? No, we don't. All right. Tell you what, your calls, 888-729-3776.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Aaron Rodgers resets the market. He has signed a massive $176 million deal with the Green Bay Packers, an extension. He gets $67 million in the next 4 months, $80 million in the next 6 months, $100 million guaranteed, and he's got an annual average of $33 million. But here's the question. All this is great for Aaron Rodgers. What's it mean for the Packers? They've got this much money tied up in one player. Yes, one of the best players in the entire league. But this much money, this percentage of your cap, tied up in one guy. We'll get to that in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show. But first, Greg in Texas. You're on the Will Cain Show.
Yes, sir. What do you think the chances of the New Orleans Saints making the Super Bowl this year?
I think they're really good, Greg. I thought they were a year ago. I thought the New Orleans Saints would be in the Super Bowl. At the beginning of the playoffs, that was my prediction, one I paid a dear price for when it comes to Eagles fans. But you just tell me this. What do the Saints not have now? They've got a rebuilt offensive line. They've drafted so well that they've added to almost every position group. They've got a two-headed running back monster in Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, who I love. I also love Mychal Thomas at receiver. And now you have a backup quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater that Jeff Saturday, here on the Will Cain Show in the first hour of our show, which you can go download on the ESPN app or on Apple and iTunes, the Will Cain Show podcast, Jeff Saturday said Teddy Bridgewater is the New Orleans Saints' Nick Foles. He's the guy, the insurance policy, that you can continue to contend for a Super Bowl with, even if you're stud, even if Drew Brees goes down. You add to that what we now know is a great defense, one that had to be talked about all through the season because the New Orleans Saints branding, the New Orleans Saints, how we envision them, the team that running guns and plays no defense, it's no more. Saints play defense. So I ask again, what are the Saints missing? You're dang right I think the Saints are a Super Bowl contender. I think they're at the top of the NFC in Super Bowl contenders, along with the Vikings and the Eagles and the Cowboys. Jack in New Orleans, you're on the Will Cain Show.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I love this Teddy Bridgewater trade, man. It's very interesting. You gotta look at it. If you got a player like Drew Brees, who's the greatest quarterback to ever live, the most precise and most accurate quarterback to ever live, who's better than any quarterback ever. You have Teddy Bridgewater, who can learn from this man. In 2 years, when this man takes over, we're just going to become even more dominant, even more successful than we ever were. I love this trade. I love what the Saints did.
I can tell.
We didn't give up much. We didn't give up much for it. I think it's a great trade.
All right, thanks for the call, Jack. Why are you laughing, Cerruti?
He's fired up.
He is
very heavy praise for Drew Brees.
Yeah,
the greatest quarterback of all time, most accurate quarterback of all time.
I mean, he didn't stop there with his hyperbole. He said that when Teddy Bridgewater takes over in 2 years, they're going to even be better than with the greatest quarterback of all time. What does that tell you about Bridgewater? If this is how they are with the greatest quarterback of all time and they're going to be better, Bridgewater must be the next best thing
GOAT
of all time. He's starting to sound like Max Kellerman on First Take. Max talking about New York Giants have the potentially greatest wide receiver of all time, has the chance to be. That's what he says about Odell. The best running back prospect he's seen of all time. And who was the other guy? Oh, Will Hernandez, the offensive lineman they drafted in the second. Did they indicate, was he a late first or was he in the second? Did they have two?
I think he was a second round pick.
Okay, Will Hernandez, what did he say? The best offensive guard prospect on the planet. Everything was on the planet and all time.
Real quick, didn't Quentin Nelson go 6 to the Colts?
Correct.
He's a guard.
Maybe he's
Would he not be a better
maybe he
prospect?
said second best on the planet. I don't want to undercut him, but when you're throwing around planet, I mean,
just saying there was another guard drafted ahead of him in the top 10.
Yeah,
last year.
Anyway, this guy, what was it? Jake? Jason? Jack? All time. Teddy Bridgewater. Whew. You're right, though, by the way. You just traded for the next best quarterback of all time? What's a third-round draft pick? Saya in California. You're on the Will Cain Show.
Awesome. You got it right.
What? Your name?
How you doing, Will?
I got your name?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm really good with names. You haven't heard that?
Oh, no, I know you. Okay, awesome. Okay. So I was going to ask the question, with Aaron Rodgers being the big deal, he's probably going to sign it. OBJ getting the big deal, he already signed it. Last week, I think you were talking about how Aaron Rodgers should take a pay cut to help the Green Bay Packers. I, being a Seahawks fan, don't want him to do that, but same like Russell Wilson, I feel like he should take a pay cut to help the team out. Why does it seem that it's mostly quarterbacks that have to do that, or is that just exclusive to them, or am I just ignorant that all players are able to do that?
No. I'll tell you the answer, Saya. Thanks for the call. The answer is it's particularly incumbent upon quarterbacks, and this is really easy, actually, because they make the most money. Far and away, man, they make the most money. Look at the deal Aaron Rodgers just signed, or is about to sign. $33 million a year on average. With incentives, it could possibly get up to $37 million a year on average. Cerruti, I asked you to pull this up. What's the highest paid non-quarterback on an annual basis? There it is. Okay, Von Miller at $19 million a year. By the way, Odell comes in right there at $18, $19 million a year on average as well. So, Matt Ryan making $30 million a year, right? He makes 50% more than Von Miller or Odell Beckham Jr. So you're going to want to save in the place where the most money is. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, it's more than 50%. Aaron Rodgers potentially could make double what the highest paid non-quarterback makes. He could potentially make double what Odell Beckham just signed. Right? With incentives, his deal could get up to $36, $37 million a year. Odell's at $18, $19 million. So if you're looking for discounts, if you're looking places to save, if you want to make the biggest bang for your buck on where you'd spend money or shift it around on your roster, it's a quarterback. I mean, the best example is this. Tom Brady's making $15 million a year. Now that you see Rodgers' deal, how big? Look at Ryan's deal. Think about how massive that discount is that Brady is offering to that team. Stunning. Tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Surprise a friend or loved one today with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Okay, so let's bore into this Aaron Rodgers deal. How happy should Packers fans be about having to pay Rodgers? Might there be some concerns? I have one number I want to share with you that might make Green Bay Packers fans very, very nervous about this new deal. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Just taking a little spin here through the devil machine. That's social media, that's Twitter. But actually some interesting questions from some of the Willisha out there when it comes to these contracts. Here's one of them really quickly. Which contract makes you more nervous as a fan? Odell Beckham Jr.'s new contract or Aaron Rodgers' new contract? Which one makes you sort of white-knuckle grip your fandom going forward? Which one do you think could come back to bite these teams more likely? It's got to be Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract, right? With Aaron Rodgers, and Cerruti, you and I were talking about this during the break, I totally agree with what you said. You don't have any questions about what he's going to provide. Now, listen, I think Beckham's great. His production's obvious. But there are risks with Beckham. Ups and downs emotionally, personality, commitment, not his work ethic. That's something different. Obviously, the video from Paris where it appears drugs were potentially involved. The owner of the Giants saying he's tired of explaining Odell Beckham Jr.'s behavior. You just don't have those issues with Aaron Rodgers. And this is even more important, the position is just more important. If you're going to overpay, if you're going to take on liability when it comes to stacking your salary cap heavily in one position, you do want to go with the one that has the biggest impact on the field. That's the bigger guarantee, right?
I put it this way. If Aaron Rodgers plays 16 games, it's almost a guarantee the Packers are making the playoffs. I can't say the same about Odell. Odell could have an unbelievable season and they could win, 5 games.
And we've talked about this. You know what? Let's do this. Tomorrow, this is a deep tease. Let's get Andrew Hawkins on. Remember we were talking about what is it we want to talk about Andrew Hawkins with? Andrew Hawkins, former NFL wide receiver, was on First Take today. I know one thing he said. I said, Andrew, I just don't buy into the idea that you need to have a big-time wide receiver to win a Super Bowl. He said, you don't. It's true. Big-time wide receivers, big, highly paid wide receivers, how many Super Bowl rings do they have? He totally agreed. Despite his positional history, he totally agreed with that. Now, even though I'm telling you that I'm more comfortable with Aaron Rodgers' contract than Odell Beckham Jr.'s, I do have one stat that I think is absolutely fascinating. Over the last 25 years, the average spent by Super Bowl winners on the quarterback position as a percentage of their cap, so what percentage of their salary cap did they spend on the quarterback position, was 6.9%. That's the average of the last 25 Super Bowl winners. The highest was in 1994. The San Francisco 49ers spent 13% of their cap on Steve Young. These numbers still have to be parsed through, still have to be understood. But if Aaron Rodgers is making north of $33 million a year on average, with a cap at $177 million, that's over 20%, or it's about at 20% devoted to one player. It outpaces all of the historical averages for Super Bowl winning teams. Why would that be? Because if you're devoting so much to one player, you're going to make compromises somewhere else on your roster. Maybe it's a defensive end, maybe it's receiver, maybe it's cornerback. It's a salary cap league. There's only so much money to go around. You give it to the guy that, yes, as Jeff Saturday told us, can win you 9 games almost by himself. can give you several of the 5 plays, just 5 plays you need to make during a football game to win. That's all great. But you're going to have somebody provide you those other 2 difference-making plays in the game. And if you can't pay a big player, you better be really good in the draft. Aaron Rodgers might be a one-man team. He might be a football superhero. But if they're devoting this much of their cap to him, he's going to have to be for the Packers to contend. Tune in tonight as Bryce Harper and the Nationals visit the Phillies, presented by Vivid Seats. Coverage begins right after we're done at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. We're going to have an extra 30 minutes of the Will Cain Show here. Hang in from 6 to 6:30. Here's another interesting note from the devil machine that is Twitter and social media. You and I have always wanted to play this game. Cerruti, guys in there. How do I phrase this? Like an alternative history. If you change one thing, what happens differently? Mike A., our resident Jets fan, he's happy that the Jets ended up with Darnold instead of Cousins, but he didn't know that at the time when Cousins passed on them, right? So let me ask you this. What if they'd signed Cousins? And what if they ended up with a guy like Saquon Barkley? Now, Barkley went 2 before the Jets had a chance, but they were trading up, right? It's not just Cousins versus Darnold, right? It's Cousins plus who you would have gotten there in the top. What were the Jets before they traded up to 3? 6? So, and what'd they give up to go up those 3 spots? I can't remember.
3 twos.
3
They had
twos.
2 last year and 1 this year.
So they give up they keep those 2s, stay at 6, or trade up. And so the real comparison would be Cousins and, where'd Chubb go? 5th?
Broncos, yep.
At 5th? Who went 6th? Can anybody remember off the top of their head?
Quentin Nelson.
Look at you go. Nice.
We got a draft maven over here, huh?
Really? Are you draft maven on last year's draft? Can I just do this with you?
No.
Who went 12th?
And we've lost them.
And we don't have a maven.
I said no.
Wow. Pete and his music maven, dumb.
When I describe myself, I would describe myself as a music maven.
And he is a music maven. Let's get Pete back in here. If we don't have breaking news on Friday, y'all want to do that again? Let's break open some new categories.
I want Pete in every day, so.
Have him start hosting the Will Cain Show.
A legend.
What do we do? R&B? Rap?
I think you need to do categories of those, though.
Those are too broad.
Yeah. Country.
But see, that's too broad.
I know, but we have to do, what are we doing? Pop country, old school.
Yeah. Outlaw country. What's the quintessential
bluegrass
outlaw country song? We're not doing bluegrass.
I'm just saying.
What's the quintessential? You're just saying? I love that. I love when people say that. That's worst. That's as bad as it's a bad look. I'm just saying.
2 things I say all the time.
What's the quintessential? There he is. The Maven comes in.
The Maven's here.
He's like Batman. Somebody put up a signal and he comes in.
You reference the Maven? Here he comes.
What's the quintessential gangster rap song? Real quick, Maven, what was the number 1 hit on the pop charts in January 10th of 1981? You've got 10 seconds.
Just like starting over, John Lennon.
Oh, my God. I feel like we asked him that exact one. Let's get some inside knowledge on the Teddy Bridgewater trade.